Welcome to Speedy Walkthroughs, where we show just the important stuff to beating the game. For first time viewers, this will look different to a normal walkthrough. It will show just the essentials so you don't need to spend a long time watching this video. Today we're playing Golden Axe Warrior, which is sort of a top-down game on the Master System, a brilliant hidden gem and plays a little bit like Zelda 1. Before we get stuck into it, if you end up finding this video useful, consider subscribing to keep up to date, as it helps out the channel a whole bunch. Now, since there's lots of collectibles that we may or may not need, I'll be showing you pretty much the best path to get through the game, which will have a few optional upgrades along the way. So you start out your game, and one of your first priorities is to get down to the first dungeon. So you'll come through this section here. You can kill enemies for horns, which are like your currency in the game, or you can pick up health from them. First thing you want to do is go down into this house and pick up a little golden apple thing. That's going to be useful for trading side quests that we're going to have a little bit later on in the game. Once you've done that, you just want to head back out and then to the right, and you'll eventually come across dungeon 1. Conveniently, there's Roman numerals on the floor of the dungeons when you come in, so you can tell if you're in the right dungeon or not based on that. So you want to take down all the enemies there to get a key, and with the key, you can open up doors in the dungeon. So that's going to be pretty much the loop of this game in the dungeons. Kill enemies for a key, open the door. But sometimes doors will open for various other reasons. You're going to get the battle axe there, so you can swap to that in the pause menu. And the battle axe is stronger and it has a better range when you hit with it. Eventually in this game, the weapon system sort of trades off so that you're between a sword and an axe. The axe have better range and the sword is more powerful. Alright, so I'm going to take a death warp in the dungeon there just because I didn't want to walk back to the start. And you might notice the axe can cut down trees on the world map. We're just going to go down here to get the heart. And if you're ever trying to cut down trees with the axe, you can only cut down some trees like these ones here, but not all trees. So you talk to this dude and give him the apple, and then you come back out here. And then we're just going to come out to the left. You can talk to this guy for 50 horns. So there's lots of secrets in all the maps, and I'll be showing you those as we come across them. Come into this dungeon here, which has a 2 on there. You can tell by the Roman numerals. And then we're just going to make our way back through here. Alright, coming out of this section here. If you ever see a blue horn drop, you'll want to pick that up because that's worth 5. And you want to get enemies like into a corner like that. You can also hit enemies from like underneath a block. Like the axe goes more than one square vertically. So a good strategy is to get underneath an enemy with a block separating you and then hit the enemy. Again, with the trend, I'm going to death warp to get out of the dungeon and death warp to get back to the start of the game. Just be aware that when you're death warping, you will lose some of your horns. So if you're not comfortable doing that, you may want to walk back to the start there. Going to make our way up, and we're heading towards dungeon 3 now. Now, one thing that I will mention, back in Labyrinth 2, I did skip an item called the Torch. That was like the hidden item for that dungeon. The Torch lights up rooms like this. So if you're confident with what you're doing, you never need the torch to beat the game. You can just sort of feel around the rooms in the dark. But if you want that torch to light up the rooms, it is in that second Labyrinth there, and you just get it as the bonus item. So we take down the boss for dungeon 3 here. And then we should be all done. Alright, heading out. We can death warp to get our way out of dungeon 3 and death warp back to the start of the game. And we can heal up there. It's always good to heal up after a death warp because death warping will put you on 3 health. Alright, so we're getting the magic there. And that magic is compulsory to beat the game, so you absolutely have to do that. Little hidden area there with 30 horns. And then we're going to get 100 horns there. I'm actually saving up money here to buy some keys. Buying keys on the overworld is a lot quicker than finding keys in the dungeon. So there's a little hidden shop coming up soon, and it's going to be selling a whole bunch of keys. So it's this one here. You beat all the enemies, the stairwell opens, and I'm just going to buy a whole bunch of keys. You may want to buy a magic oil as well. There's this enemy that can rust your armor, which is really bad if that happens. So just be conscious of that. And you use magic oil to sort of get your armor back. Alright, we've got dungeon 4. So take down the enemies there for a key. Although I have bought some keys, we will still need to collect some since you need to use a whole bunch of keys to get through the game. And as soon as you use a key, it's used up. They don't last forever. We get the canoe, and that lets us go over shallow water there. And then we'll make our way back down. You'll notice as well, now that I've got the earth magic, I'm using it to freeze enemies. It's a really good strategy, so you freeze them and then you can just sword them and get rid of them. It's a lot more efficient than trying to use the other magic, which only deals damage. Since that damage, you'll need to use multiple shots to kill an enemy, whereas with the Earth Magic, you can kill them in one shot. Just going to take a Death Warp out of this dungeon, and then we're done. Heading around here, I'm going to go down the cliff there, and into this town. Earth Magic on that bit gets us in there, and we get 100 horns. And if you've done less Death Warping than me, you'll probably have more horns at this point than I do. Alright, going down here. Take care of those enemies, and that opens up that. We get the plate mail, so that's like a stronger armor. You'll take less damage if you're wearing that. Coming through this section, going on the water is a little bit quicker, and we can get into level 5 there. So Earth Magic to block there, and then we get the Speed Shoes, which is a very good item. It lets you just move faster, essentially. And sometimes you need Speed Shoes because of the spike traps as well, so you pretty much want that item. Also, like, why wouldn't you want to move faster? Earth Magic up there, and then hit the candle on the wall. And then we got this skull boss here. Now, a little strategy for these bosses. You can just stand in the doorway and keep hitting, and then the boss will die. So if you're having trouble with any of the bosses, that works on a lot of the bosses in this game. Not all the bosses, though. That trick actually works on the very final boss as well, which is pretty funny. Alright, heading out here, we're going to go up and make our way across the lava into Dungeon 7. Now, you notice I'm doing these dungeons a little bit out of order. That's just the way the game plays out. Just a little bit quicker to do Dungeon 7 here. And again, if you're missing that torch item and you really want to light up the rooms, jump back into Dungeon 2 and you can find it there. With any of those Wizrobe enemies that are like firing magic spells at you, what you'll want to do is freeze them with the Earth Magic. And with the clamshell enemies, you want to wait till they're moving towards you to hit them. That's the only time they're going to be vulnerable. Also, if you run across any of the little crab enemies, which start popping up at this point in the game, those crab enemies are the ones that can rust your armor. So you got to be careful about that. With this boss, it's just a random flame. So you got to go around and hit any of the 5 flames and try and get the right one. Here, I'm just going to zip through and grab the dungeon item in this dungeon. So if we go across here, we get the ship. So the ship lets you travel on water in the overworld, like deeper water. But you do have to find like a little dock to take off from your ship. You can't just travel in any water wherever. So I'm going to go here and get some horns. And then going to go up through here, go onto a dock. So we're using the ship right away. And then we get the dragon mail. So that's like a stronger armor that we have there. Right, back onto the dock. And I'll be making my way up. Back towards like the starting area of the game. I can heal up there as well because I've done a death warp before. Now this is like down, down, up, right, down, and then up again. So you have to take that same path through there. So just make sure you go the exact same way that I did. And when you're going right off a screen on that path, it does matter whether you take the top or the bottom bit when you go right. They are different outcomes. So you got to take the exact same path I took to get that. Alright, through here, I'm just saving. Now, the reason I'm saving is to set up the warp point. So, like, when you die or use a magic feather, which I've just bought there, you'll return back to the last point you saved. Up till now, that's going to be the start of the game. But then, from this point, it's going to be wherever I saved. So, we pay this person 10 horns, and that brings us into Dungeon 8. We'll take down the enemies there. And then just heading through, killing this mini-boss here. You hit the candle on the wall to open that up. Hit the candle there to open that up. And then back down. So we got 2 little chests here. You just want to hit the Earth Magic into the block and warp in front of them. Remember those Wizrobe enemies you can freeze. Now the Thief's Key there is brilliant. It's just an item which is a key which never breaks. So from this point in the game we don't need to worry about getting keys at all. It's also partially why I've left Dungeon 6 till after Dungeon 8, because that way we won't have to bother collecting any keys in Dungeon 6 now. Alright, we got the crystal, so we're just going to make our way out of the dungeon. Luckily we don't need a death walk, because it's a pretty quick walk back, and I use a feather to walk back to Dungeon 6. You'll notice Dungeon 6 is crawling with these crab enemies, so if you do get hit by one, you're going to start blinking, and if you're blinking, that means your defense is really low. So what you got to do if you're blinking is head out. There's a shop just up and right a map, and you can get the magic oil to heal yourself up. Alright, hit the candle on the wall, go through there. Any of those solid blocks that I'm breaking are always earth magic to break those, so just be conscious of that. Alright, candle, and we get the ice spell. Ice spell is compulsory to beat the game. It'll get rid of like a little barrier later on. Alright, I'm going to go into this town. We're going to get the dragon shield, so a little bit more defense for us, which is always good. And I'm just going to go into here and buy some meat. So meat will heal up your health, and that's always good to have. I'm going to go here and get the water magic, so you may have found that useful. The main reason I'm doing it there is just to refill my magic meter, actually. So use the ice spell, and you'll get through that tree up there and into dungeon 9. So again, crawling with crab enemies, you got to go and get magic oil if they get you. Here is where I'd really recommend using the freeze earth magic spell on these guys. Otherwise, they just take ages to kill. Killing all the enemies spawns a bridge there. Hit the candle to get up. And we got a little dragon boss. Take care of that. Remember, these clams will only take damage if they're moving towards you when you hit them. So you just got to make sure you time that out right. And you can actually sort of freeze the clam enemies. If you freeze the clam enemies, just remember which direction they were moving before you freeze them, because then you've got to hit them as if they were moving towards you still in that same direction. The earth magic is so good in this game. Alright, here's that little strategy. You can see me standing in the door, and then the boss can't damage me if I'm in the door there, so that's a really good strategy. And if you want to line yourself up in the door, you can actually turn around while you're slashing the sword, so you like walk down as far as you can and then slash, but while you're slashing your face back up. Alright, to get to the last dungeon, we got to go to where dungeon 6 was, so it's just making your way up here and left, and then so you get a cutscene there, and you can warp all the way across. It's dungeon 10. So this is a really long dungeon here, but the final boss is in it. So our first priority in this dungeon is to get the golden axe. So up till now, you'll notice I've been using the sword weapon. The sword has been stronger up to this point, and it's sort of a trade-off. Do you want the strength of the sword or the mobility of the axe weapon? And that's the trade-off you're making. For the golden axe that we're going to pick up, that is the strongest weapon in the game, and it's an axe. So yeah, golden axe is really good. The unfortunate thing is you can't actually get the golden axe until you're in this dungeon, because the dungeon doesn't open up until you've done all the other dungeons. So you get the strongest weapon in the game, but it's sort of locked to the very last portion of the game where you get to use it. You can see me using the strategy here of like separating myself one block from an enemy, and I'm underneath the enemy, and then you can hit them through the block. Really good strategy for dealing with enemies in this game. Alright, you take care of these guys, make your way through. And there's a golden axe up there. So now we got the golden axe, just immediately slot to it. It's such a good weapon. I think every new weapon you pick up goes up 1 in the damage stat. So if you want to like have a gauge for how good things are, every next one is 1 higher than the previous one. The golden axe, I think it's 5 from memory, but it's the best one regardless. Alright, jumping up here, just got to hit that candle. The dungeon is so non-linear, it's like heaps confusing to make your way around. Hit that candle. You can get the timer item, which is always really good if you manage to pick that up. It freezes the enemies. Alright, making your way up through here. Now this is the last boss. You can literally stand in the door and keep slashing your golden axe and you'll deal damage to it. And then we won. So that's it. There's a few more bits and pieces to find in the game, but that's the main items you'll need to get through it. I hope you found this video useful, and thanks so much for watching.